Oh, we could fly.
Welcome to this new season of the Have a Cup of Jahani podcast. So, I want to title this new season that I'm embarking on with I'm Growing. So, this is going to be the season of growth. And that's what I'm going to share with you throughout the season. So, I thank you for coming over here and sitting with me. And I hope you enjoy. Hello, friends. So here's the situation. I was strolling through, I want to say Instagram, and I saw this video of a person that was explaining how they used to live in Europe and now they live in the United States. And they have noted how different it is in the restaurants and how the restaurants in the United States are void of children. And in Europe, Italy specifically, which is where they came from, they're just bursting with kids, and it's natural to have kids and in the restaurants, and no one really bats an eyelash per se when it comes to that. And she notes the difference of how it is frowned upon to bring children into certain types of restaurants. Obviously, unless if it's fast food. I mean, they're very common in fast food restaurants or wherever it is that the kids have a play area of sorts in there. And I found it interesting, and I found that this is something that I can talk about because I have similar and different opinions when it comes to that. So to say that today in today's episode, we're going to talk about kids in restaurants. The do's and the don'ts. Nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not here to tell anyone how to parent their kid or what to do or what not to do. I mean, it has to be legal and ethical. So do everything within the boundaries of what is legal and what is ethical and morally right. But nevertheless, I raised my kid in a semblance of how my grandmother raised my sister and I. I took a lot from her because she is the one adult that I remember raising me or imparting that kind of knowledge and coaching me through childhood. And I get a lot from that whenever I think about what it is to be an okay adult and not to be an asshole in this world. I lean towards the example that my grandma showed me growing up. So, because of that, a lot of the things that she did, I in turn did it with my son when I was raising him, along with friends that helped me out with babysitting. And the thing that I remember was that our grandmother didn't keep us out of certain places just because we were kids. She shielded us from adult like discussions, but when it came to like places where we would go, we certainly just went everywhere our grandmother went because there was no such thing as a babysitter. And while I was a single mom, I also didn't have the luxury of having additional money to pay for a babysitter to where I could leave my kid whenever I wanted to do quote unquote adult stuff. So my kid went with me everywhere. And one thing that my stepmom at the time, she taught me as well was I remember it. I remember it. Let me bring it back. She was like, raise your kid in a way that he can be in all the places you will be at. Yes, that's what she told me. And I took that to heart. I took that to heart. And she explained to me, and she even said it right there in the moment, I'm giving you this counseling, ese consejo. That's what she said. Uh, because I know that you're a single mom and I know that you don't have the financial means for a babysitter. So she explained it. She was very direct with me. I appreciated that a lot. And she broke it down like that. And she was like, and because you don't have the money to leave your kid behind, you have to raise him in a way that he understands his left and right limits and how to behave in certain spaces and how to talk to you in certain spaces and all of that. So I make sure that my child understood what was acceptable in places when we would go outside. And one of the things that I would do with Jonathan is that I would let him just have a cow. If I knew that we needed to be outside in a public place, in a restaurant, in a school function, in a work function that I needed to be at, and I needed to bring him with me as my plus one because I didn't have a babysitter, I allowed him to have plenty of time to get his jitters out. That's how I would explain it to him. I was like, okay, this is jitter out time. And we will have a dance party. I will have him running. I will have him do anything and everything he wanted to do as long as it was safe and he wasn't harming himself or harming me. But he was allowed to do it. And I told him, you can yell, this is your house. You can do anything that you want to do, once again, as long as it is healthy and he's not harming anyone or himself. And that was our agreement growing up, that that was in this house is a safe space. In these walls, if he wants to throw a tantrum, he can. If he wants to speak crazy and say all these crazy words and curse words because he felt angry, he could. Because I remember being a child and having to hold so much in, because for me, my lessons went in the house and outside of the house. But I didn't want that for my son. I wanted him to have a space where he can, like a screaming room per se. And for him, that was the entire house. And to this day, that has always been our agreement that in the house, you let your hair down. But outside, you're on your best behavior. You act with all the decor, all the decorum that anyone would expect of a child raised with two parents and raised in a private education and all that other stuff. Because I told them, I'll be damned that people point the finger, be like, see, that's what you get for being a single mom and all of that, all that stuff that people like to say behind someone's back, which that's going to be the next episode that we talk about. But yeah, I was very open and honest with my child growing up, and that was our agreement. And and while my grandma didn't necessarily gave us that, she gave my sister and I more like, you're coming with me everywhere that you go. And she gave us the instructions necessary to understand how do we behave with decorum. So that way she's not perceived a certain way by others, because of us being children. Um, then I took that and I tailored it a little bit more to my situation, my lifestyle, and how I wanted to raise my child. And that's what I did. So for me, I find it interesting how parents don't take their kids to these places. And I noted that with my step babies. So when I first started dating my husband, a few months later, the introduction was very slow, right? As it should be with things of that nature. So little by little, I was introduced to the step babies, and little by little, I started incorporating them into our activities because it's the same thing that I do with my son. If I go somewhere, he will go with me. So why not them? And I found out very early on that their upbringing was a little bit different. Their upbringing was that if their other parent went out, their other parent will leave the kids with someone else or with my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband, and they will stay at home and so forth. But I explained to my husband how I go about having kids in the same places as me because it just, I mean, at the time I couldn't afford it. That's one. But then little by little, I learned that that's actually creates a better bonding as well, because you don't have that much of a separation between you and the kids. Like I said, I'm not here to judge anyone, and I hope no one judges my parenting, what I did as a parent or what I'm trying to do with my additional babies. But I feel that there's a space that don't need to be there when we start saying like, oh, I'm going out to this restaurant and I'm not going to bring my kids just because they're kids and blah blah. Now, if it's like and a grown-up only thing, right? A grown-up event or something like that. But going out to a restaurant and then you just choose to not take kids just because they're kids and you don't want to deal with that. That's where I don't agree with that. And I will say just bring the children and teach them early on, just inculcate in them how it is to be in those spaces so that way it's not a culture shock when they are and they're able to behave and socialize as most people do when they go to these places. I think it's healthy. That first day that we went to the restaurant with the additional babies, that was a culture shock for me because then I had to realize that I had not raised these other two bundles of joy, that they have had a very different introduction into life than the one that I had given my son, and that I needed to give them grace, give their parents grace, and give myself some grace because of it. I was irritated at the time, very irritated, and I had some words with my husband now, my boyfriend at the time, and I asked very directly. I was like, "Oh my god, do the babies, do they go outside?" He was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Do y'all take them to restaurants?" And he was like, "Oh, no, 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 no." And, you know, he was like, "Well, to pizza, to pizza with the food and the games, things of that nature, yes. But like just a regular restaurant where there's no entertainment for them, it's just them sitting down eating a meal and socializing with the kids at the table. No, they've never done that before. And I had to sit with that information and and make a note of it. And in as much of a gentle fashion as I could, explain to my husband that we will need to put our heads together to to see how we can incorporate the babies into our outings and also inculcate in them what is accepted in certain places, what is not accepted in certain places, how we can get their jitters out as well, if that's what they need before we go to these places, and things of that nature, or how we can get the jitters out before and after if that's what is needed, and allow them to enjoy the present moment without having to have the entertainment like in Chuck E. Cheese and all these other places. But what I found that works for us is to have friendly reminders, what I call friendly reminders, which is what I used to have with my son. My son was also very energetic growing up. Somebody told me that he had ADHD, but I didn't think it merits having medication. I thought that it be manageable with therapy and with a structure in the house. So because of that, there's certain schedules that we maintain, a certain structure, regular bedtime, and things like that. So that way to kind of give him that predictability that he needed in the house. So that way he wouldn't be as jumpy and as energetic because now he understood how his life will unfold every day. So he didn't have that anxiety on top of the energy that he would normally have, naturally have. And as it turns out, I was right, knock on wood. It was just the mother instinct, the whole talking to the doctors and all of that. I found that sometimes doctors are quick to give medicine as opposed to approach it in a holistic sense and to try to give therapy sessions as opposed to medicine to kids. That has been my experience. But I am so thankful that even in my immaturity and young age, I was able to realize that and just gear my son and I towards a place where we do it the holistic way, and that has helped us. But yeah, so my additional babies are also as energetic. So I kind of understand that certain things need to happen so that way they can get that the jitters out, they can expand on that energy, exercise that energy, however that may be for them, and allow them to speak and ask questions and just guide them to do it in a way that is more palatable for certain places, meaning that the volume needs to come down, but not so much to kind of like take away their speech because they love to talk. So allow them to talk. And those are the little things that we have incorporated for them. Just allowing them to have the jitters before and after, and if they need to do something in the middle. I remember in that first instance that we went to the restaurant together with them, I can sense the energy just exuding off of them. And I was like, "Did you take them to the park before coming over?" He's like, "No, no, no. I wanted them to get ready. I didn't want them to sweat and so forth." I was like, "Oh my goodness, no! Take these kids to a park before get them tired, exercise all that energy." So I told them, just let them go around the table. I told them the restaurant was very friendly towards kids, and there was other kids there from my other friends. This was a family event, and the other kids was going around the table. So I told my husband, I was like, just let them go around the table with the other kids. It's okay. Just let's give them some rules. Don't put your arms out so that way they don't topple anything or anything like that. And then they were able to do that, and it kind of calmed them down for a little bit. And then once we got out, just let them run the sidewalk, and they had to stop because they can't cross the street on their own, and things like that. So that way they can just exercise that energy, because I think that's what kids need most. So that way they can enjoy the moment, and they're able to hear the guidance giving to them. And little by little, folks, we are getting there. They're still very energetic, but now that they're older, they understand it so much more now that all I have to do is park the car, look at them, and be like, we're at the store, so you know what that means. Okay. Well, I was like, okay, so that means you have inside voice, right? You come talk to me and don't yell it in the store that you want something. You come talk to me and we have a conversation about why you feel you need that, and how you're going to earn it or how you're going to pay for it if you have the money, and things of that nature. So I give them kind of like what I call a back brief before before we step out of the car, so that way they understand their left and right limits. And that way we can all enjoy each other's company and not have to restrict them from certain places just because they're children. Because after all, they're children. They should be in all the places, or most of the places at the very least. So that way they can learn how to be grown-ups, how to be adults, and how to socialize with other people as adults. It starts there. So going forward, I mean, any young kid that just is incorporated into my life, either through marriage or when the babies have babies. Oh my God, I may be a grandmother. Oh, Jesus. Oh, that hurt me. I will make sure that I pass that along, because it saved my son and I quite a lot of hardship, and I am so proud of him, and what a young man he became. And I'm not saying it's all me. It's not all me, because I had literally a ton of friends that helped me raise that little man, that young man that I have now. Um, but yeah, I will certainly going forward just advise other people that come across my way to do the same, because it is so joyful to have the children in your life around. And as long as we guide them to be uh, productive, to not be destructive in public places, and give them that grace and allow them to have jitter dances. I think we should all do more jitter dances. What do you think? I hope you have a jitter dance today. Okay. Hope you got something out of this, whether you have children or not. Hope you got something out of it. At the very least, let's not be so judgmental when we see parents out there with the babies. Okay. Bye.
Oh, we could fly.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the show. See you on the next episode. Bye.
Oh, we could fly.